All right, page 444. This is where we rolled yesterday. So we started mentioning the idea. By the way, anyone from Philadelphia, if there are people here from Philadelphia, you really ought to be sitting in the back. But go Birds. Yeah, I don't like hearing that. Do not like hearing that. Do not like hearing that. So I got an email from somebody who said that I made a mistake in the other shears that has to be corrected, because I said that if Barbra Streisand was, let's say, frum, and we were talking about witchcraft, the limitations that you would only be able to sing like in front of frum women. So somebody sent me an email and said, well, that's not true, because it could be secular women also, or even non-Jewish women, which is technically true. When is the last time you saw a group of non-Jewish women separate with a mechitza, or separated just a group of non-Jewish women with entertainment? When's the last time such a thing happened? It's like, it's like having a chesed committee in Afghanistan. So it's, it's just not, it's not, or a nice, warm, sunny morning in Philadelphia. Certain things don't happen. So it could be theoretically, technically, she's right. So I apologize. But in any event, so yesterday we said, I mentioned that the Medrash says over here, right on the very first pasuk, Daber b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu li truma. Now, the nature of Medrash is that sometimes it kind of goes off on a tangent based on one word. And the tangent in this case is the word v'yikchu, which is related to the pasuk ki lekach tov nasati lachem torasi al ta'azov. I've given you a good merchandise, do not forsake my Torah. So the Medrash mentions a couple of incidents that took place when it wants to emphasize that the Mishkan was made in order to put the main item that's going to go into the Mishkan is going to be their own Kodesh with the Luchos or with the Torah in it. So the Medrash goes off and talks about what Torah is. Why is Torah considered the best merchandise? Torah is the best merchandise. What kind of merchandise is Torah? So the Medrash mentions a story about a Torah scholar who was on a boat with a bunch of merchants. They were on a ship. And the merchants each had their merchandise that they were going to go, and they were going to go in some land where they're going to do business. And they said to this guy, well, where's your merchandise? And he said, because he didn't have anything with him, he said, my merchandise is worth more than your merchandise. And they were all laughing at him and, they're like mocking the guy where you don't even have any merchandise. And eventually they were overrun by pirates who took away all their merchandise. And then they ended up on dry land. And when they ended up on dry land, this guy went to a base medrash, and the people saw that he was a Torah scholar. So then they made him a rabbi, and they started giving, they were paying him, and they were supporting him. And all these other guys who had their merchandise taken, they were broke. So they came to him. And said, they put in a good word for us, so they should support us too. And he said, look, I told you that my merchandise is worth more than your merchandise. My merchandise can't be turned. He didn't do like that. No, he didn't go, He was just saying, making a point that my merchandise is better than your merchandise. My merchandise can't be taken away, number one. Number two, there's another story, and the Medrash says that there was a man who learned his entire life. There's a tractate called Tractate Chagiga, which is a very short tractate in the Shas. And this man studied Tractate Chagiga his entire life. He reviewed it over and over and over and over again. And then one day, eventually, it was the only tractate that he learned. And he learned it over and over. He reviewed it over and over and over. And then one day, this man died. And he was unattended when he died. And a woman dressed in white appeared and started wailing. And people said, well, who are you? What are you crying? She said, there's a man over here who respects me. He honored me my entire life, and his entire life, and nobody's here to attend him. So they took this guy out, and the community got involved to bury him. They said to her, who are you? She said, my name is Chagiga. Dressed in white. My name is Chagiga. And so they all, and it turned out she was the soul of the Masechta. How do you like that? Every Masechta, we look at it as just a bunch of words. It's not a bunch of words. It's some sort of living entity. What that means, the soul of Masechta, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I can't tell you. But she was the soul of Maseches Chagiga. And then they buried him, and they went looking for her, and of course she disappeared. So, but what it's telling is that the Torah is a living Torah. We call it Torah's Chaim. It's a living Torah. Every Masechta has its neshama. Not only every Masechta has its neshama, even what we're learning about now in the Beis Hamikdash, we have the idea that the Aron Kodesh carried those that carried it. Did you ever hear that idea? The Aron Kodesh, when they carried the Holy Ark, so really it carried them. The Aron Kodesh was nosei es nosav. It carried. Now there's a different meaning to it. We'll see later. But the idea that the Aron Kodesh carried them, that means that there's something alive about the Aron Kodesh. There's something living. Now, don't tell you, I did not say that it's living. I'm saying there is something alive about the Aron Kodesh, even more than that. Remember when the Gemara says when Titus went into the Holy of Holies, the Gemara in Gittin says, he went into when they destroyed the temple, he stabbed the paroches, which is the curtain, and the curtain started bleeding. He stabbed the curtain, started bleeding. That means that the Mefarshim say there's some sort of, again, what it is exactly I don't know, and I'm saying openly I don't know, but there's some sort of kedusha that the Jewish people, by donating the materials, by putting their life into these materials, remember, you take money from a Jew, you're taking his life. The guy says, your money or your life. Well, give me a couple of minutes to think about this. Who was it, Jack Benny? Who was it, Jack Benny? One of the Jewish comedians. Like, your money, your life. It's like, boy. Yeah. So they're donating all the materials here willingly. That means they're putting some life, the Mefarshim talk about some sort of life force that they're actually putting into the Mishkan. The Torah is the Torah of life. Why is Torah compared to water? Why is Torah compared to water? Torah is compared to various liquids. One of the liquids is water. Why? Water is the most basic means of existence. You could go a few days without food. You could go a long time without food. You could, people go on fasts. You could go, if you've been in yeshiva for a few weeks, you've been without food, for a few weeks. But you could go without food for a while. You can't go without water for a couple of days. A person's going to die. So Torah is considered the source of life. Torah is the life force. Even more. This is so Jewish. It's a statement from the Gemara. There was a debate among the sages, which is more prominent, which takes priority, Torah study or action? Studying Torah or putting Torah into action? Which one is the priority? So most of the sages said, taking action. Taking action is the priority. You have to do. And the Rabbi Akiva said, no, studying Torah is the priority. Why? Because studying Torah brings you to take action. How's that for some circular? That's what Rabbi Akiva said, by studying Torah. Studying Torah then brings you to take action. So taking action is more important, is it? No, Torah study is more important, because Torah study gets you to the point where you'll take action, where you put it into action. What does that mean? If you look around, and I'm just giving you an example, if you look around in in Israel, for example, do you know there are medical relief organizations? Have you ever heard of Yad Sarah? You ever heard of Yad Sarah? Yad Sarah is a medical relief organization where you can borrow anything from crutches to wheelchairs to medical to medicines. Who founded Yad Sarah? It was a yeshiva student, a former yeshiva student who started Yad Sarah. Who started Ezer Mitzion? Ezer Mitzion is one of the biggest medical relief organizations in Israel. Who started that? It was a former yeshiva student who started it. It's people who study Torah, then go on and they put it into action. The people, if you go to Tel Aviv, you go to North Tel Aviv, you are not going to find a whole lot of gemachs. You're not going to find a whole lot of volunteer work in other areas of the world. It's the people who study Torah, then take Torah, and they put the Torah into action. So the beginning of the Parsha talks about the prominence of Torah in the life of a Jew. People don't understand. Again, it has to be repeated again. Remember I told you I had a teacher in high school. He was an ex-Marine. He was a crude, coarse ex-Marine. He did not like us, so we despised him. And he had two bad habits. Remember I told you about this guy? I never told you about this guy? One of them was that when he would lecture us, he would poke his glasses at us, which is very humiliating to have people talk to you with their glasses. The second thing was, every once in a while, he would repeat the last word of a sentence. Sentence. Because I think he felt it made him look sophisticated. And we were simply annoyed. annoyed. All right, now, I got a pretty vivid imagination. I could not make this up if I wanted to. He was once handing back our test papers. He was in a bad mood. He was always in a bad mood. He was handing back our test papers, and he said, "Gentlemen, the trouble with your papers, there was too much repetition." Repetition. And of course, I was sitting in the front row and chewed my lip off, trying not to laugh. The guy could have just as easily assaulted me as not. He was a. And so it's the only thing I learned in high school, sophomore year, or any other year for that. There are certain things in life that have to be repeated. And what has to be repeated is the prominence of Torah in the life of a Jew. Torah study. You can do all the mitzvahs that you want. Mitzvahs are great. You have to do the mitzvahs. A Torah Jew, a man, has to be connected to Torah learning. Torah learning is Talmud Torah Keneged Lulav. It's not another mitzvah. It's the main mitzvah. The main mitzvah is Torah study. We have to study the Torah. It does something to us. It has an effect on us for whatever reason that God made it that way. Torah affects us like no other mitzvah. It is affecting our neshama. It affects our behavior. It affects our outlook. It affects our thoughts. It affects our entire life. That's the first idea that comes out of the Parsha. Now, the Torah then goes on and says what sounds look like a bit of a contradiction. If you look at the bottom of page 444, the last line, God, when he's giving this command to Moshe, he says, "Ve'asu li mikdash," they shall make a for mikdash for me, v'shachanti b'socham, and I will dwell among them. Now, the first problem you should have with this pasuk is what? Ve'asu li mikdash, they should make a mikdash for me, and I will dwell b'socham among them. What's the problem?
Wouldn't you be dwelling in the sanctuary, not among?
Oh, it started with Asuli Mikdash, a singular. The ideal, and then I will concentrate my Shechina v'shachanti, should say b'socho, not b'socham. It should say b'socho, in it, not in them. So many mefarshim say over here, Ve'asuli mikdash, they shall make themselves. In other words, the plain meaning is that you build a building called a migdash. You build a base of migdash. Ve'asuli mikdash, every Jew has to turn himself into a mikdash. We have to strive for more kedusha. V'shachanti, then I will dwell in them. I will dwell inside each Jew. Number one. Number two, the plain meaning is ve'asuli mikdash, they will make for me a mikdash. V'shachanti b'socham, and I will then dwell in the Jewish people, be through the Beis HaMikdash that will spread my Shechina among the Jewish people. The problem is that later it says, in the beginning it says, where is it? Kechol asher, next pasuk, Adimarosa es tavnis ha-mishkan ve'es tavnis kol kela v'chein tasu. I'm showing that as I show you how to build a mishkan. So make up your mind: is it a mikdash or a mishkan? Well, we had a base of mikdash, and we have a mishkan. Where was the mishkan? The mishkan is in the desert. But the mishkan is at what they call the tabernacle. They call the tabernacle is the mishkan. Whereas the Beis HaMikdash is the temple that was built in Yerushalayim as a permanent building. The Mishkan moved around with them in the desert. Now make up your mind. He says Osel Mikdash. Why did it say Osel Mikdash? It should say Osel Mishkan.
Is referring to both?
What's that?
It was referring to both.
Oh, so part of the idea, some of the before I say Osel Mikdash, ultimately it's going to be a Beis HaMikdash. But for right now, you're going to be making a Mishkan. In the desert, you're going to make a Mikdash. But even more than that, which one strikes you as a higher level of kedusha? A Mikdash, Beis HaMikdash, nothing like the Beis HaMikdash. Now, watch the irony over here. They're in the desert. They had manna from heaven. They had the well of Miriam. They had the clouds of glory. All sorts of interesting things were happening in the desert. Then they go into Eretz Yisrael, and in Eretz Yisrael, they don't have the money. You got to work for a living, and you got to plow the fields, and that's where they're going to build the Beis HaMikdash. I mean, why I would think that you have the bigger Kedusha in the desert, don't you? There should be more Kedusha in the desert. The answer is no. Because in the desert, it's all laid out for them. All you got to do, you don't have to worry about your parnasa. You don't have to worry about catching the train. You don't have to worry about anything. And here you don't have to worry about the catching the train either. It just doesn't show up. So, but all you got to do is just listen and learn in the desert. Just be spiritual. That's great, but that's not the highest level of spirituality. Highest level of spirituality is for a person to be able to have to overcome challenges. And when you go into Eretz Yisrael, you're going to have to overcome challenges. Nowadays, there are challenges in Eretz Yisrael too. I don't know if you've noticed that. Nowadays, there are also challenges in Eretz Yisrael. But, in the desert, what do you got to do already? Go out and collect some money and bring it home to your family. You have no pressures. You don't have any difficulties, any challenges. That's a Mishkan. That's a Mishkan. That's a great level of Kedusha. Hashem's presence will dwell. But real Kedusha, the base of Mikdash, is when you have to go and overcome challenges. And that's something that people forget all the time. When you feel that your Yetzer Hara is starting up with you, when we feel that my Yetzer Hara is really giving me a hard time, that's an indication that I'm really working, I'm doing well. He feels I'm important enough to start up with me. If he doesn't want to start up, he'll leave it alone for you. This guy there's no hope for, right? Oh, I'm not going to bother with him. Somebody who has a challenge means that I now have an opportunity to grow. That means that we're somebody significant. That's a sign, it's a good sign if we're challenged, and it's a good sign if we're bothered when we don't succeed against a challenge. That means we care. So the ultimate Kedusha is going to be in Eretz Yisrael. That's what the Mefarshim say. Now, take a look. The other Mefarshim say, V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'socham. That last pasuk is referring to the architects. Who I told you yesterday, who's the main architect of the Mishkan? Bitzal. How old was he? 13. Who's going to be helping him? He has all sorts of assistants that are going to be helping. Anybody we'll see later on, anybody who's so inclined could get involved in the help in the design of the Mishkan. Where did these people go to architectural school? And where did Egypt? There was an architect. Yeah, in Egypt there's only one. That's one structure in Egypt. Yeah, that was the only architectural school in Egypt. And dodging falling bricks. That was about the only thing they learned. Where'd they learn all these things? How did they go? How did a guy 13 years old? How did he know how did Bitzal? The Gemara says Bitzal knew how to arrange the letters of the Aleph Beis that the world was created with, and bring about an effect by manipulating letters of the alphabet, whatever that means. I don't know how to do it, but he did. And when did he learn it? The answer is, V'asu li mikdash, they will make a mikdash, v'shachanti b'socham, I will dwell in the builders of the Mishkan. I will dwell within them. The divine spirit will be there so that they have the divine assistance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to know how to produce this Mishkan that the Jewish people are going to be with in the desert. Now, the first thing on the next page, and this, people think that the Parsha's Terumah, it's all about various utensils. It's absolutely, the depth is fascinating. Yeah, go ahead, Binyamin.
I just had a question, probably small, but
yeah.
Is it fair to say that after the construction of the Mishkan, the Shekhinah of Hashem left Bitzalel and all those who were involved, or always stayed?
Why? How much? That I don't know. That I don't know if it stayed, if that level of inspiration stayed. It's a valid question. I don't know. But the idea that it was just it was just I wanted to do it. You want to do something in life. Often that becomes the thing that allows you to do it. Sometimes people don't realize what they're capable of until they try doing it. People don't realize that you're capable. You're very capable. Just try. And if you really want to do something, often you're able to accomplish it. Look at these guys who run this. What's this thing called the triathlon? The bicycling, swimming, and running, that sort of thing. What's it called? Triathlon. Who in the right? What is it? 26 miles of running, and then riding a bicycle across Arizona or something, and swimming across the English Channel, whatever they do. Who in the world could do that? A guy wants to do it. It's amazing what they're able to accomplish. It's amazing when a person wants to do something, what he's able. They had the ratzon. The ratzon, ein davar omed b'fnei ratzon. Nothing stands in front of your will. Okay, there are limitations, obviously. There are obviously limitations. But at the end of the day, a lot of life has to do with what you want to accomplish. I'll get to you in a second. What you want to accomplish. If you want to do it, you want to get involved, often you're able to do it. But it has to be that you genuinely want to do it. Yeah.
Seems like Bitzal was a big tzaddik, but if I remember, I think, did he die very gruesomely?
No, that was his father, Hur. Hur was killed. His grandfather, Hur, was killed at the Egel. Hur was killed at the Egel, not Betzalel. Okay, now take a look at Pasuk, second Pasuk from the top. Because first, now it starts talking about the various items that were in the Mishkan. Ve'asu aron atse shitim. You make the ark. Amasayim v'chetzi orko, 2.5 amas long. Ve'ama v'chetzi rachbo, an amma and a half wide. Ve'ama v'chetzi komaso, and an amma and a half high. Now, the Aron Kodesh is one of the biggest whether it's because you saw Raiders or other educational films, there is a certain misconception about the Aron Kodesh. The Aron Kodesh was 3 boxes. Look at that one more pasuk. V'tzipisos of Torah, you should coat it with gold. Mibais u'michutz tetzapenu, on the inside and outside you should coat it. V'asisa olav zer zahav saviv, you should make a golden crown around on the rim, running around it. Now, what does it sound like if I say to you it's coated with gold? What does that sound like? Plated. It's thin. That means that you have a wooden box, because it says the Aron Kodesh is made out of shittim wood. And then, it's coated with gold on the inside. Now, it sounds like it's painted with gold. It sounds like it's painted with gold. It's not. When it says it's coated with gold, it means there is like a gold covering. Now, what that means is that the Aron Kodesh was actually made, the ark, that you see the picture of the ark, like on this page over here where you see it, there are actually 3 boxes there. There are 3 boxes, one inside of the other. The actual Aron itself is wood. Inside it is a smaller box made of pure gold. The outside of it is also a box made of pure gold. And there's a gold covering on top of it, and there are 2, the kruvim are on top of it, also made out of the gold that the covering is made out of. But when it says it's a coating, it doesn't mean a coating that's painted on. It means that it's a box inside a box inside a box. There are 3 boxes over here. Jeremy, you said it's heavy. I made one, gold is a very, very heavy material. Gold is very heavy. And I once made a calculation, just the cover of the Aron Kodesh, just the cover itself, which is 1 tefach thick, and it's 1.5 by 1.5 by 2.5 amas. An amma is about, call it 16 inches to 18, let's say 18 inches. So it's about 2.5 feet by 1.5 feet, pure gold, and it's about 4 inches thick. I once made don't ask me how I made that, based on the gold price and based on weights and everything else. The top of the thing alone was worth well over $10 million. Just the cover of it. Now, how heavy would that be? It'd be pretty heavy. That's a heavy piece. And then you got 3 boxes. 2 of them are solid gold boxes. Yeah, how heavy that is. And how do they cover this? How do they carry this thing?
You carried them.
They had 2 wooden poles? Really? No kidding. Yeah, with these 2 wooden poles, you're gonna carry that weight? You can't even get enough people around the poles to be able to pick up that kind of weight. Yet the Kohanim picked it up and went. That's what it means. It carried those that carried it. It was supernaturally carrying those that carried it. So there's an idea. Obviously, the Aron Kodesh was something. Not only that, do you know that it says that the Aron Kodesh did not take up space in the Holy of Holies? How do you like that? It didn't take up space in the Holy of Holies. How do you like that? That means the Holy of Holies was 20 amos from side to side. But from either side that you measured to this ark, which is 1.5 amos by 2.5 amos, from either wall to the Aron Kodesh, you get 10 amos if you measured it. Measured from that direction, it was 10 amos. From that direction, it's 10 amos. The whole thing is 20 amos, and the Aron Kodesh is in the middle. It didn't take up space. What does that mean? Didn't take up space. Like Winston Churchill said about Sir Clement Attlee. Winston Churchill and Sir Clement Attlee did not get along well at all, to say the least. And Sir Clement Attlee once drove up. Winston Churchill said, a limousine pulled up at Parliament, an empty limousine pulled up at Parliament today, and Sir Clement Attlee stepped out. That's what Winston Churchill said about it. He also didn't get away with Lady, what was her name? Lady Astor? That was her name? Yeah, she's the one who said to him, "My dear sir, if I was married to you, I would poison your tea." And he said, "Madame, if I was married to you, I would drink it." So that was his famous, that was a famous Winston Churchill line. But you see, it says the Aron Kodesh didn't take up any space. What does that mean? That means that whatever this is something that transcends the physical limitations of the world. What's the lesson? Which all, by the way, sounds very good and flowery and everything else, but there's got to be a lesson for us. The Torah doesn't take up any space means what? The Torah Aron Kodesh didn't take up any space in the Holy of Holies. What does that mean? It means that there's no place there is no place that's without Torah. Torah applies at all times and in all places. Torah does not take up any space. It's all over the place. And wherever we are, we have to have the Torah with us. So let's go back to the Aron Kodesh now. Let's take a look at the precise, what it's telling us here. You know, notice something about the dimensions of the Aron Kodesh. What do you notice? It's 1.5 by 1.5 by 2.5. What do you notice right off the bat? Halves. Fractions. Right? Most guys in high school were allergic to fractions. Right? Fractions bother people. And the Aron Kodesh, every dimension of the Aron Kodesh is a fraction. In all the other, when you look through over here in the Parsha, if you just skip ahead for a second to 448. So now it has a shulchan. It's about, see towards the bottom where the new paragraph begins. Here is the command of the shulchan, the table. What did they put on the table? They put the showbreads on the table. They put the bread on on this table. So it says, "Vasisa shulchan atzei shitim." You should make a shulchan. We're going to go back to Aron Kodesh in a second. You should make a shulchan. Amasayim orko, 2 amas long. Ve'ama rachba, an amma wide. Ve'ama v'chetzi kamosa, an amma and a half height. That height dimension of the shulchan is the only other fractional dimension you're going to find by the utensils in the Beis Hamikdash. All the other ones are whole numbers. So what you have over here is the Aron Kodesh has 3 fractional dimensions. Length, width, height are fractional. The Shulchan, length and width are whole numbers. Only the height is fractional, and everything else is full dimensions. What's the idea here? And obviously there's no accident. What's the idea here? Anybody got a guess? First of all, what does the Aron Kodesh symbolize?
Our connection to Hashem.
Specifically, Torah. What was in the Aron Kodesh? He had the Luchos and he had the Torah. The Aron Kodesh is the Torah. And where does it go? It goes in the Holy of Holies. We'll see what that means in a second. What does the Shulchan symbolize, gentlemen? The Shulchan, no, the Mizbeach is the altar. That's a separate thing. What is the Shulchan has the showbreads on it. That represents prosperity. There are 12 breads. And the breads, the energy that comes down that brings prosperity to the Jewish people comes off. In other words, the breads serve as a receiver. When you transmit something, don't you need a receiver to transmit? You got to give a transmission. You got to transmit it to somebody. The blessing comes down to the bread and then spreads to the 12 tribes. The Shulchan represents prosperity and the kingdom. The king is the one who's responsible for the well-being of the Jewish people, the material well-being. What is the Aron Kodesh represents Torah. The Mizbeach is the Kahuna, the Kohen. What's the menorah represent? The menorah is the light. What is the light? Also the light of Torah, the light of wisdom, the light of Torah. Now, I'm jumping ahead, but let's take this slow. Anybody got an idea? What are the broken fractions by Torah? Well, how do you feel after you learned about a page of Gemara? You're broken. No, that's Tosos. No, on the one hand, you feel fulfilled. Hey, wow, I learned a page. I learned an entire tractate of Gemara. What else do you feel?
How am I going to do it all?
What's that?
How am I going to do it all?
Boy, there are a lot more to go. It means at no point when you learn Torah do you feel you finished it. Not lengthwise, meaning not quantity, and not depth, height-wise, quality, depth. Whether it's depth, breadth of Torah, we are always incomplete when it comes to studying Torah. There's always more to study. And ironically, who knows that the most? The more Torah one learns, the more one realizes how much more Torah there is to learn. Who knows how big the ocean is? The guy standing at the shore, or the guy who dives down with the what do they call them? The scuba divers. Right? Who knows? Who's got what's that? Why are you laughing?
Snorkels.
Snorkel. Snorkels. You guys go to a lot and snorkel and look at wave at the fish. Yeah. And I'm talking about what we used to do when we used to go deep sea diving. That was the. Now, why would you laugh, Jeremy? Why would you laugh? What's the skepticism over here? I would have done it if I could. I used to. I held my breath in the bathtub for a while. That doesn't count. So if I actually would, that I'm not too nervous about. That's something I probably would do because it doesn't involve jumping from planes. So it doesn't. Except that the problem is sharks. I wouldn't be in shark. I know a guy told me when the shark's out, probably just punch the shark in the nose. If a shark comes, you just punch it. Yeah, I know all about it. Yeah. So I would like to do it like somewhere where it's safe. Like in a pond. I wouldn't mind, putting on a snorkel and a thing, go down in a pond. I think I could handle that. Just got to come up. I know you have to come up slowly, right? You have to come up slowly so you don't get the bends. Look at that sophistication. I got trouble bending right now, but that's a different. So the who knows who knows more how vast the ocean is. The guy who goes down. Once you start learning Torah, what is the rude awakening? When you come into the yeshiva the first time, we're going to learn some Bava Metzia over. Hey, come on, here's a page of writing over here. And then the next thing you know, that you've spent three days on 4 lines of Gemara, and you've learned the Tosfos, and you've learned the commentaries, and you realize that you still don't understand what's going on, and you're wow. And the whole thing, it's endless. That's the half dimensions. Number one. Number two, it's teaching you that person who studies Torah has to be humble, like a fraction. Like, I don't like to use the word he's a broken person, but he certainly feels that he's not complete. I'm not complete as a person. I still have ways to go. A person succeeds at Torah with the degree of, one of the ingredients needed to understand Torah is humility. And if you haven't got humility, so learning a page of Gemara humbles you. It's certainly a humbling experience, and it's still a humbling experience no matter how long you learn it. And it becomes even more humbling as time goes by. Because no matter how much you've learned, you always feel like, my goodness, I'm still not getting, it's still challenging, and it's still showing me what an intellectual peanut I am, because I'm still having, it's difficult. And that's why the half dimensions are a reminder to us of what's needed, what Torah is, and what's needed, how we should view ourselves in our relationship of Torah. Number one. Number two, there are, so the Torah says, like, look at the pasuk again. The asu aron atse shitim. They shall make an aron of shitim wood. Now later on, when it comes to the shulchan, look at what the shulchan says on the next page. It says, ve'asisa shulchan atse shitim. You shall make. What's the difference between ve'asu and ve'asisa? What's that? They and you. When it comes to the Aron Kodesh, it's ve'asu aron atse shitim. They shall make a Torah, an Aron. And here it says ve'asisa. Now, let's just jumping ahead. The shulchan represents prosperity, right? Why is it that the length and breadth dimensions of the shulchan are whole numbers, and the height dimension of the shulchan is a fraction, the only other fraction? Why? Any ideas? What do you say? What's your name? Noah, yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of like the idea of like the going into the ocean. It's like the depth is where the fraction is, where you feel like broken a little bit, but you feel secure at the surface of the ocean, which is like the like.
Okay, but good, you're right. But the shulchan itself represents prosperity, not Torah. The shulchan represents prosperity. Your idea is a very good idea, by the way. That there's something about for the surface. What is it telling you about the shulchan that's different than the Aron Kodesh?
It's limited.
What's that?
It's limited.
It's limited. What should be limited? What's that? What should be limited is the shulchan is material pursuit. There we should see ourselves as complete. On the length and on the breadth level, on the surface of material pursuit, we should see ourselves as complete. When it comes to the height dimension, which is our material use in spiritual matters, that means buying tefillin, giving tzedakah. When it comes to spending on religious stuff, there we should see ourselves as incomplete. I could do more. I could give a little bit more tzedakah. I could buy a better pair of tefillin. I could spend more money on a lulav and esrog, again, with the limit, obviously. When it comes to our personal expenditures, we should see ourselves as length and breadth is complete. That's why it says in Pirkei, Ezehu Ashir, who's a wealthy man? Hasameach bechalko, somebody who is happy with his portion. Because the definition of wealth is, what's the definition of poverty? What's the definition of being poor? What's the definition of poverty?
Making less than 30K a year.
Making less than 30K a year. I'll raise your hand. What's the definition of, the definition of poverty is that you feel lacking. What's the definition of wealth theoretically? Is that you're not lacking. So it's not a question of how much money you have. If I'm wealthy and I feel I'm lacking something, so then I'm a poor man. In that area, I'm poor. If you're a poor man and you feel I don't need any more, I have what I need. What more do I need? If I have what I need, how much? What would I do if I won this Powerball as $1 billion, whatever it's up to? Well, I always wonder, what would I do? Well, and then I cry. But what would I do with that? What would I do with that? To finally buy, that 8-slice toaster I've always wanted, and get myself a buy. What would you do with it? All that already? How much are you lacking? There's certain things I could, I am lacking something. I'll tell you, I would like a chauffeur-driven car instead of having to ride on the train every morning and wait. Yes, that. And more than that, I really can't think much more that, the new scuba equipment that I wanted to get, that I've been waiting to get. Yeah, that's about the only thing. What would you do with it? So power is somebody once said, the guy said to me, I was talking about my daydream of winning this lottery, by the way, which I could do anytime I want. To just say I can't figure out what I would do with the money. That's what's holding it up. So I was talking about, a guy said to me, by the way, money doesn't make you happy. I said, yeah, but not having money doesn't make you happy either. So if I'm really going to be unhappy, I'd rather be unhappy with money than without money. Isn't that logical? I think so. So the Torah is telling you, when it comes to material pursuits, now what's ve'asisa in the singular, individual, why over here? Ve'asu, because when you learn Torah, you learn with a chavrusa. You learn in a group. You learn with somebody else when you learn Torah. When it comes to material pursuits, ve'asisa, individual. Don't look at what other people have materially. Ve'asisa, it's singular. Make a shulchan. You have your own table. You have your own needs. What does it matter what somebody else has? I have to upgrade my car because this guy down the block bought a new car. So what? That's a Torah. I focus on your own material needs. That's where jealousy comes from. That's where all competition comes from. Focus. But when it comes to Torah, ve'asu aron, because Torah is learned in a group. You need a chavrusa. You need somebody to bounce the ideas off of. That's what we're doing in yeshiva all the time. You need a Rabbi to teach you. It needs a group of people. You don't learn Torah as an individual study. Furthermore, ve'asu means there are people who may not be able to learn Torah all day. What's their job in Torah? What's their role in Torah study? They're the ones who have to support Torah. Ve'asu, they will produce Torah together. There are those who learn in Kolo, and there are those who support those who learn in Kolo. They are partners in the Torah being learned. There are no accidents over here. Okay. Then it says like this. V'yatzaktalo, pasuk 5 lines at the top. V'yatzaktalo arba tabe'oz zahav. There are 4 rings of gold. V'nasata al arba pamos, you're going to put it on the 4 corners. Ushtei tabos al tzolach chaz, ushtei tabos al tzolach sheni. So you're going to put 2 rings on one side, 2 rings on the other side. There are 4 rings around the Aron Kodesh. And then what are you going to do? V'asisa bade atzei shitim. You're going to make poles out of shitim wood to carry this whatever the weight of this golden these two golden boxes with a wooden box inside. Vitzipiso samzav, you're coat it with gold. So first of all, very interesting. Again, the Aron represents the Torah. Gentlemen, how many times a week do we read the Torah?
Three.
What days? Monday, Thursday, Shabbos. I mean, when you think of Monday, Thursday, you don't think of reading the Torah. You think you have that long tachanun. That's probably what you think of. But you have Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. And how many people get coiled up to the Torah in total?
3.
That's on Monday.
13.
Shabbos is 7.
13.
Guys, I could teach you Torah. I don't have to teach you math, right? Monday is how much? 3. Thursday is how much? 3. Shabbos is how much? 7. 7 and 6. 8, the mafter doesn't count. 7 and 6 is how much? 13. Right. And what else do we do on Shabbos after we take our nap and you wake up and recover from the booze at lunch? What do? Then you go to Mincha. How many? Then another 3. So we got 9 and 7 is 16. You're on a roll. 9 and 7 is 16. So there are 16 people called to the Torah on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. Right? Now look at the pasuk. Look at the word. You make badei. Look at the word badei, gentlemen. 4 lines from the bottom. 2. Beis is 2. Dalet is 4. That's how much? 6. Good. And a yud is 10. So what are we up to? 16. Now go. And what do you do with them? You coat them with zahav. What is zahav? 7, which represents Shabbos, is the 7th day. Hey is 5, which is Thursday. And Beis is 2, which is Monday. So you call 16 people up on the 3 days of the week, Shabbos. Okay? All right, that's entertainment. Now, the real question here becomes, why is it that the Aron Kodesh is the wooden box and it's coated with gold? What does that mean? The Aron Kodesh is the wooden box. What does that teach us? What's the difference between wood and gold besides the price? Texture. What about the texture makes it different? You're right. You're right. What about the texture makes it different? What? What? Yes, wood is less shiny. What else? Where does wood come from? A tree. Gold does not come from a gold tree. It comes from the earth. Where does the wood come from? It comes from. What's the difference between a tree and a non-tree? Yes, the tree grows. It's living. The Aron Kodesh is, the main part is to teach us to grow. We have to grow. The Torah teaches us how to grow. But when we grow, we have to be gold on the inside and gold on the outside. Our inside should be gold. Our thought process, everything, and our external behavior should be good as gold. Gold is always a standard. Nobody ever says be good as toothpaste. You say be good as gold. Gold is a standard. Number 1. We should be gold in our internal behavior, inside, my thought process, my internal behavior, and our external behavior. Number 1. And number 2, we should be gold in our home, and we should be gold outside of our home. Between me and you, where's it easier? Outside, much easier outside. No brainer. No brainer. Oh, yeah. Outside the home, we're just the most wonderful, charming, sweet people. And you come home, and all of a sudden Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Kaplan. I mean, Mr. Hyde, sorry. That's what happens. And Torah's teaching you, we have to grow, and we have to be gold on the inside, we have to be gold on the outside. Okay, Mincha.